your journey to become interior design is going to be difficult. It's going to be hard. It's going to take growth. With that, you're going to have all these feelings of self-doubt that are loud, but that doesn't mean it's true. A beginner is not an imposter. A beginner is someone who is in process. And so you're not behind, you are building, that you are becoming a better designer that you want to be. I mean, every designer, even 20 years in for me, I am endeavoring to become a better designer in my process, in my designs for my client. And so it should never stop, because we as designers love vision, love to improve, love to see how interiors can go from looking one way and be improved and become better. And so we apply that same thing, whether it's subconsciously or consciously, to our own lives, to our own businesses, to our own feelings in the career. You're now listening to Design Curious, a place where you, creative one, are here to learn about what it really is like to be an interior designer. And I'm your host and mentor, Rebecca Ward. If you're worried about how to succeed in a creative career, if you're ready to learn your next steps to become an interior designer, and if you want the satisfaction of doing something you love every day, you are in the right place. Grab a coffee, a notebook, and let's dig into today's episode. Hello, and welcome to episode 193 of Design Curious Podcast. Today on the podcast, we are covering, once again, imposter syndrome. I'm especially talking to the new designers out there, but I know that even well-seasoned designers experience this as well. And so we can get into that in the episode about what's happening on the inside when you're facing imposter syndrome. I've talked a little bit in a couple episodes past about, your contract can help to give you confidence, and that having systems and other things like that, leading the client and all of those things. But there's kind of other parts that you want to pay attention to when you are experiencing imposter syndrome. And we're going to talk about that in the episode. I do want to mention that if you are experiencing imposter syndrome and you're a new designer and you're not sure how to move past it, even after listening to this episode, then why don't you join my design mentor? It is a great time to join right now because, first of all, it's always a great time. But next, we are actually going to be increasing the price of my design mentor. I haven't done that for a while, but I think it's time. And we're going to do that July 1st in coordination with Launch Your Business Bootcamp. So if you sign up for my design mentor this month or Launch Your Business Bootcamp for the summer session, then you're going to get the standard rates that are current right now, but it's going to go up in July. So if you join my design mentor in July, or if you do boot camp in winter, you're going to have the higher rate. So I recommend getting in there now. You can stay in as long as you like in mentorship, as long as you need it. And so it might be worth your while just to hop on now, even if you're not sure you have enough time, because it's really an affordable rate at $47 a month to just have access to me, access to all these learnings. So check it out. Okay, now let's talk about imposter syndrome. So the first point we're going to talk about is that imposter syndrome is really often a sign of growth. And having imposter syndrome is not proof that you don't belong to whatever you're doing. So in this case, it would be becoming an interior designer or starting your own business. It's very common to feel that way. 9 out of 10 designers I talk to admit to feeling imposter syndromes at some point or another. So it's so common. And it really just means that you're stretching into something bigger. I am a huge advocate for growth, personal growth, change, even though it's hard. I sometimes will resist change as well, but change is hard, but it's always good for us to go through change. But that resistance is kind of what you feel when you're experiencing imposter syndrome. And interior design especially feels personal because it's reflecting some projects and some vision that you have had, that you've created. And so you're putting your work out there as an artist of applied arts that you are now vulnerable to the person receiving it. So that would be your client, or as your projects get bigger, you're going to be submitting them for awards and publications. And so that makes you vulnerable as well. And you might be looking around at other designers, what's out there on Instagram, what's in the magazines. And it's so easy to compare with someone else and say, oh, my projects don't look as polished as that person's. But you can't really compare your beginning with someone else's middle or even the end of their career. You're going to be in different places. You're not looking at their beginning photos. I'm sure their photos started out the same way as yours. Social media makes everyone else look good, right? It's all polished, established. They're showing the highlight reels often, even though there's a movement to show a little more realistic side of things. It really is curated still because no one wants to be that vulnerable and no one wants to be judged. There's just really very few people out there who don't care what other people think, right? So we are programmed as humans to want to be accepted by a tribe, to our peers. And so that is what is happening when you're looking and comparing. But as they say, comparison is the thief of joy. And we don't want to take the joy out of your career, out of something that you love. So we're talking about that it's a sign of growth, but also don't compare. So that feeling of self-doubt does not mean that you're in the wrong room, that like, oh, I don't belong here with all of these great designers. You go to market and you see all those celebrity designers talking on a panel and you're like, I'll never be there. I'll never be like that. But all those people were where you were when they were starting out. Some of them took 20 years to get there. Some took 3, 5, so everyone has a different path and your growth is going to look different than other people's. It really depends on your personality, your willingness to grow, and your willingness to adapt and change and improve. You're not disqualified just because you feel nervous being around or presenting your project to a client or being around other designers who might have a huge portfolio. So you're very capable, even though you might feel insecure. And again, feelings are just, we've talked about way back, if you want to look back to episodes where we talk about mindset and that feelings are really just thoughts, that you can change your feelings by changing your thoughts. That is what it's important to understand. And it made me think a book that I had to read in high school called The Road Less Traveled. And one of the lines in that book, I think it might have been even the opening line, is that life is difficult, was one sentence. The next sentence says, and once you realize that it no longer is difficult because your expectation is now that it is difficult. And so you're willing to accept that and move on. So you know that your journey to become interior design is going to be difficult. It's going to be hard. It's going to take growth. So with that, you're going to have all these feelings of self-doubt that are allowed, but that doesn't mean it's true. A beginner is not an imposter. A beginner is someone who is in process. And so you're not behind, you are building. So that's kind of where we want to start with this mindset, is that to reposition it from self-doubt to a growth mindset, that you are becoming a better designer that you want to be. I mean, every designer, even 20 years in for me, I am endeavoring to become a better designer in my process, in my designs for my client. And so it should never stop because we as designers love vision, love to improve, love to see how interiors can go from looking one way and be improved and become better. And so we apply that same thing, whether it's subconsciously or consciously, to our own lives, to our own businesses, to our own feelings in the career. So that's how we want to position it. So it's not solved by waiting until one magical day when you suddenly feel ready. That's never going to happen. So if that doesn't happen, then how do you actually move through it? So that confidence comes from within. You don't, even when there's no external proof. External validation is never going to be enough if your internal foundation is weak. So one compliment, one project, one happy client, or one social media win is not going to permanently fix any of your insecurities. I've even noticed that as I have wins along the way, I will quickly move past them. Like I had a project published in a magazine. Yay, it's exciting. And then I see the magazine, I tell the client, post it on social media, and then the next month I kind of put it on the shelf and now I've moved past it and I kind of forget. And honestly, it really serves you well to create a list of wins that you have ongoing throughout your career that you can always reference when you're feeling those feelings of self-doubt, because it really helps to hammer home that you have been doing things. You have accomplished a lot. You do have a lot of wins, even if it's one here and one there. It's going to help reinforce that you do things well and that you can design and have successful projects. Confidence is built through identity and self-awareness and all of this inner work. And so you have to pay attention to those beliefs that are running underneath your fear. So are those beliefs saying, I'm not experienced enough? I mean, these are things that I hear all the time talking to designers who come through my mentorship program. Almost all of them have these questions to me or statements to me that I can see that their beliefs is that they feel like an imposter. So they'll say, oh, I don't have enough experience. I'm worried about making mistakes. So-and-so, in my community is, started last year and they already have like 10 projects and I don't have any. And then do I need to take more classes? Do a lot of things in order to be a designer. And we've talked about this before. When can I call myself a designer? And today, you're a designer today. You already have been a designer because it's innate, it's within you. So really paying attention to those inner voices, those inner beliefs and thoughts, and that will affect your feelings. That inner work matters because it affects how you show up, how you make decisions, how you lead, and how you recover from things that go wrong. So some things that you could do to help you identify these thoughts and beliefs that are going on inside would be to maybe journal about some patterns or things that you're frustrated with. Sometimes you can't see it until you kind of get it out, whether that's verbally into a voice memo or dictation, or you're writing it out by hand. Any way that you can process your thoughts well, I would recommend putting it down on paper or in the computer. And so you can see patterns that start to arise whenever you're feeling that way. And notice comparison triggers. Do you feel worse or you feel like you're more of an imposter when you've been scrolling on Instagram for an hour as opposed to just going on there quickly to post something, like another thing and then hop off? It's maybe it's a trigger for you to start comparing yourself to others. You can challenge those false beliefs that you have instead of just accepting them. So anytime something negative thought about yourself comes up and you just say, hey, is that really true? Let's explore that. And then create space in your own home for getting grounded, having this time of reflection. If it's going to work for you, it will probably also be something that can work for your clients. So this is going to be something you can put in practice that you can actually apply to your designing for your clients' homes, because they might not be getting imposter syndrome about being a designer, but they might have struggles, other things in their lives, and they need a safe space to get grounded and reflect. And so by going through the process yourself of seeing what kind of environment you want for doing this reflection work that everybody really needs to do. I mean, I really try to promote healthy lifestyles for my clients with, I'll hint at not having TVs in the bedroom and let's have a meditation space or a home workout area and things that I can subtly lead them into. If they don't already do that, just be like, have you thought about this? This might improve your life, right? I want to touch all areas, not just visually, of improving their life. And then if you're really, really struggling, then you can work with a mindset coach or a therapist. And if you have this recurring block, you're I just can't get past these thoughts. I can't think any other way about myself. Then it might be time to turn to a professional to help you. No judgment there. People do this all the time. And I've worked with a life coach in the past before, and the mindset issue is just so revealing. It's so foundational as to like how you can shift your career to be more successful and more aligned with something that you want because you've changed the way you thought. So confidence is not something that it'll be handed to you when the industry is not, you don't get it when you get your first award, design award. It's something that you have to build within yourself. And so this is why I keep coming back to this topic, because it always comes up with other people, but it's kind of the hard work you have to do inside, and that like not a lot of people can hand it to you, right? So it's something that you have to do within, and you have to be disciplined enough to do it. So confidence is an inside job, and you can't outsource your self-trust. And so just think about all that and take some time for yourself. Be kind to yourself and be like, okay, why am I thinking these imposter thoughts? I know I'm a good designer. I know I have talent. So spend some time just noodling that. And if your inner work does not mean sitting still and just thinking better thoughts, though. It's confident that also grows when you take action. So that's kind of the next step in building your confidence, is to take action. And that happens through repetition. And then the steps that you take for personal growth. I kind of have a couple different parts to this section of taking action. So I am always an advocate for the first part. I would say part A would be always learning. Always be taking, I like having to have to take continuing education units, even though it's annoying. Sometimes I have to get a certain amount within a year or 2 years to maintain my certification, but really just forces me to be like, okay, what else can I learn that maybe I need to hone my skills in a certain way? It really just is going to make you a better designer, especially if you're new. Be learning, trying to take courses. I've mentioned before different courses that you can take, like science and design, or get your certified aging in place certificate, or there's a lot of other programs that even of people who have come through the podcast, speakers who have their own courses that you can learn more things. You can learn how to do AutoCAD better, or Revit, or like anything that you think, even if you don't think it's going to be that useful right now, it might become useful later. Take a color course from Maria Killam. So every week, if you feel, especially if you're starting out and you're not that busy with clients yet, like carve out some time every week, like 1 day a week. You're going to take a class or watch a YouTube video on how to do something that you don't know how to do well yet. And it's just so you can become more aware and more prepared. So carve out that time for learning. You can learn design principles, learn process, communication, marketing. I mean, there's so many things that can go into owning a business as well, like having your own business that you can learn, because that's all things that, I can help people with through the mentorship, and other coaches have programs, but you're not going to learn that in design school. So if you're fresh out of design school, or even if you haven't gone to design school, you might not know all these business things. And so there's so many courses you can take to learn how to do that, or even just interpersonal skills like communicating with clients, how to read the room, how to know what to say in all these different difficult situations. There's always something you can learn. And so your confidence will grow the more that your knowledge base grows. So remember that. You might be new, but you don't have to stay new. You don't have to stay inexperienced. So every week you can be becoming a better designer, and then share what you've learned. It shows that you're busy, you're active, you're learning. People love that. Okay, so let's say part B then would be practicing in your own home, kind of like I mentioned earlier, like you can practice by creating a space for all of this reflection or learning, but then also practicing on your home. Like I tell people who are just starting out that the best way to build your portfolio is to use your own space, or maybe your family member's space, and just get some vignettes. Your home is like a laboratory. So it's like a great place to try out contractors that you might want to use with your clients. You can try out paint colors that you want to find your tried and true whites and neutrals, and maybe try it out in your own home. I'm always telling my clients like, oh yeah, I have this color in my house. Like I love living with it, or I have this appliance, I have this rug, I have this light fixture. Like I have all these things. And by me verifying that I live with it, I love it, you're going to love it too. That word of mouth referral, it goes so far with the client. And practicing making choices and living with them is great for getting confidence. And then oftentimes you just learn by doing, not by watching someone. Like even if you're watching a lot of YouTube videos, you kind of need to put that into action. And for me, I know that's the case on a lot of things. Like I can learn. And then it's like, okay, it's not really going to sink in unless I'm practicing and trying it out for myself. So practice is still practice, even if there's no one paying you for it yet. So you're still designing, you're still working on a project, even if it's your own home. You know, it doesn't matter. You're still getting that experience. And your talent is increasing each time that you do a new project. Okay, then moving on part C of this section on learning, growing through taking action. So part C is don't be afraid of mistakes. Mistakes happen every level of business and design, whether you're in your first year or your 20th year, you're still going to make a mistake. Sorry to say, we're not perfect, right? So new designers often become timid because they're so afraid of getting something wrong. You're going to get a lot wrong at the beginning. And of course, like working with a mentor or a coach or someone like that, working for another designer can kind of help shield you from some of the repercussions of mistakes. So you can learn it the easy way. But sometimes you'll have to learn the hard way. That's just the way that it goes in life. But being timid because you're afraid to make that mistake, it can really kill your creativity and your leadership in your project with your client. The goal is not perfection. The goal is learning how to respond well to each situation that happens. So if you do make a mistake, like for example, you selected a paint color, but then you wrote the number down wrong for the painter. And so he picks up the wrong paint. He starts painting the wall. It's a completely different color than what you put down. Well, what do? You're going to own that mistake quickly and say, stop painting. You need to figure out what happened. Somehow I wrote that down wrong. And then you communicate with your client and say, this was my fault. I put the wrong paint color down here and he started painting and now he has to paint over it again. But don't worry, this was my fault. So I'm going to cover the cost of him repainting that. So you need to solve that problem calmly and not just have a meltdown because he made a mistake. Clients will get it as long as you're taking care of the problem. You know, it might be a little annoying, but they're going to move past. Now, if you're not paying attention to the details and you're making mistakes just because you're lazy about checking things, then that's a whole different story. Usually, especially new designers are so on top of everything. They're checking things 3 times. And then if something still goes wrong, that's amazing, right? How could it slip through the cracks? But it might. And then you're going to learn from this lesson. I keep a running list, I've said before, about lessons learned from each project. It's great to go back and be like, oh yeah, I forgot that happened. Like that was a really, pivotal point in like how we changed our process here because I learned from that mistake. And then you keep moving on. So yeah, you're going to make those mistakes, react calmly, own up to it, communicate clearly. Mistakes happen. I've had some situations where the client was not very understanding about a small little detail mistake that happened, even though I did communicate clearly and solved the problem calmly. She had other things going on in her life, and so she did not react very well. I can't control how she reacted, but I still learned from that. Sometimes people are just not going to be understanding, and then that probably means that they weren't the ideal client to start with, because you really just want to be working with people who are kind to you and are not going to cheer your head off just because you made one little mistake. Have they been perfect their whole lives? I doubt it. So let's have a little compassion for each other that we will make a mistake. Okay, so don't aim to be a designer who never makes mistakes. Aim to be one who knows how to handle them. That would be a great reputation, to know how to handle mistakes or how to handle surprises that come up on the job site. To have that reputation, I think, would be amazing. And so Mistakes don't mean that you are not cut out to be a designer. Just because you make one mistake doesn't mean you have to throw in the towel. They're part of how you become an excellent designer. So just remember that. I know it's hard when you're in the moment and you're feeling a little emotional and vulnerable about the mistake that you made. But come back to this episode and remember that everyone makes mistakes. You're going to move past this. This too shall pass, right? And then learning from it and making it right, it's really just the best response. And then the last part of this taking action is to adjust your mentality to adopt kind of a more adventurous or a pioneer mentality, to be a leader. New designers need a little courage as much as they need talent because they're starting out. Like, you're taking risks. Other people are taking risks on you because you aren't as experienced. You need to kind of bolster yourself, buck up, and get that courage to get out there, right? And so you have to be willing to go first, to try things, trust your perspective, and keep growing, even though you might be wrong. And leadership's not reserved for the most experienced person in the room. You can still lead your clients, even if you're a new designer, because you have talent, you have vision. And if you've been working with me or another coach, you'll have process that the client will trust you and that you can always go back and lean on, especially if you have it in your contract, right? Go listen back to episodes about how your contract's your besties. That will give you confidence as well. Sometimes leadership looks like taking one brave step before you're really fully proven. So it's like opening your business, telling people you're taking on projects, even though you haven't really been fully proven as a designer yet. Someone will take a chance on you. So interior design kind of requires a pioneer spirit. Sometimes you're going to be designing things that are really out of the box, and you kind of have to be willing to try it out. Sometimes I'll design something, I'll take it to my contractor and be like, can we build this? Like, is this possible? Can we make it work? Can you figure this out? I would like to see something that looks like this, but I have no idea how to do that because I've never done it before. So you kind of need a pioneer, like to be the first one there to figure that out. And those are usually the things that really make the project or really help a designer to stand out in their community, is because they kind of went out on a limb and did something that nobody else has done before. Not saying that every project has to be like that, but you do need that kind of a spirit, especially when you're starting out and you haven't done anything before. So don't build a body of work by waiting until you feel certain. You start to build it by growing, moving, doing, taking action. Designers who keep going and have that growth mindset and mentality and pioneer spirit will kind of surpass others who are just hesitating or standing still in their career or just like not pursuing that. So you can get ahead of other designers around you if they don't have that kind of mentality. So I hope that speaks to you a little bit. I keep bringing up this topic because it does keep coming up whenever I'm mentoring someone. Talking with even other designers in my local community, we all struggle with imposter syndrome. So I kind of wanted to talk more about the inner workings of that and how to adjust it and kind of squash it down so that we're taking action, that we're just going out there, taking some risk, being designers that embrace the future and really build something that we love to do. So I hope you're feeling encouraged to do some reflection, to stop comparing yourself with other designers, even though it's super easy to do that. You are a fabulous designer, and I want you to feel that way about yourself too. So looking forward, and like I mentioned in the intro, that we've got boot camp coming up as of today. The doors are open to sign up for Launch Your Business Bootcamp. So if you are a new designer and you haven't started your business yet, but you're thinking about it, Bootcamp is going to be where you want to be because, first of all, you're going to get the great rate that it's at right now before it increases for the winter. But then also after 8 weeks, you are pretty much launched and ready to go, taking on your first client. I'm there holding your hand through the whole process. You've got other boot camp designers in there with you, going through the whole process. You're all on the same page. You're all experiencing it together. You can compare notes. It's really fun. So I suggest you get in there now. And then also I have a webinar coming up this month. You can get the link to join the webinar on June 10th. And then I will do it again live June 24th. So it'll be the same webinar, but you have the option to attend June 10th or 24th, or if you liked it on the 10th, you want to revisit, hear it again, you can come on the 24th, that's fine. That webinar is called, Are You Ready to Start Your Interior Design Business? How to know for sure and what it really costs. So if that interests you, I encourage you, sign up for the webinar and attend this month, June 10th, June 24th. I'd love to have you there. All right, that's it for this week. Next week, we'll have another great episode. And until then, stay creative. Thanks for listening. If you love this episode, please leave a rating and a review. This helps me reach other curious creatives like you. If you have a topic request or would like to contact me, simply head over to my website, rwarddesign.com, or email me at podcast@rwarddesign.com.